Hello, this is Sunil Sundaraj from Double G Sports. I'm here, to welcome in Michael Lyle Jr., who's an adjunct professor at Quinnipiac University, a news anchor for New England Public Radio, as well as a weekend fill-in anchor at WTIC 1080 AM. Michael, thank you so much for the opportunity, to interview. My first time, conducting a video interview after 6 years of being with Double G Sports. Congratulations, on these three roles. Just amazed at how you're able to juggle all three of them, pretty much at once. Can you just talk about that?
Well, I appreciate you having me on, Sunil, and thank you for that introduction. Yeah, it's been quite the ride for me. Been in this business for 22 and a half years. I started off as a production assistant at ESPN shortly after I graduated undergraduate from Howard University in DC. I worked at ESPN Radio for 6 years behind the scenes doing a lot of technical work. Got to meet some of the professionals that you see on TV now. Half of them are not there anymore. Some of them have also transitioned. But it was a great experience being at the network's headquarters, and I did a lot of work there. Learned a lot about the business as well. And I did some work outside of there when I went back to come here where I'm at now at Quinnipiac University for my master's degree. And I learned more about the business going back to school. And I also got to do more local radio, which is what I'm doing now here in Connecticut and in Massachusetts. On the side, I'm also teaching. So I've learned to give back to my profession by educating others that want to be in this field. And so far, it's been a rewarding and enriching experience. And I couldn't be more blessed for these opportunities, man. It's 22 and a half years, but honestly, I don't think I've scratched the surface just yet, Sunil. I still feel like I have a long ways to go. Crazy to say, but true.
What's most fulfilling about these jobs? Not only being a professor, but also, I said the role of being a news anchor as well, Michael.
Just having the passion to do what it is that you want to do and loving your job. I mean, we're in trying times right now. Certainly the media has been scrutinized in more ways than one than I've ever imagined since I've been a professional, which makes the job a little more challenging because you got to deal with those that might feel like the facts you put out there are not necessarily facts. So it's my job to make sure that as a news anchor, I'm giving them the information that they come to on a regular basis. And it's nothing but facts. It's nothing fake. It's all information that I've combined from pulled from other resources. And you have a great team behind you that does the work that I do to make sure we get this information out there. So it's the thrill of being able to get on the air and telling people what's going on in their backyard, not just what goes on across the country. Because community news and community radio still exists, and that's what people want to come to now. We have all the national networks to do their jobs, but there's nothing like being the voice of information for your community, and that's why they turn to you, because they know that you're going to give them what they're looking for and keep them in tune with what goes on. That means you've done your job. Of course, it comes with the territory that not everybody's going to like what you do. There'll be some people that just feel otherwise. But when you get the habit of doing this regularly and you're used to it and you enjoy it, which is, I think, the most important thing about this job, you got to love it, even with its challenges. And if you got that much, then the rest is history.
Yeah, and, of course, 2020 has been an unprecedented year.
Yeah.
So much going on, with the COVID-19 pandemic, and we, of course, floods, hurricanes. Of course, sadly, said famous people, passing away. Said entertainment, sports, news. So it's been quite challenging, Michael.
It has been very challenging to say the least. I mean, I'm sure when historians go back and look on the year 2020, they're going to have a whole bunch of questions. And a lot of those questions are going to be with WTFs and all kinds of profanities, because they're going to say, what happened in 2020? And the thing is, we're not out of the woods yet. We're still in September going into October. So we got, knock on wood, 3 more months to go. Hopefully things will change for the better in many ways.
Yeah. As you were talking about off there, especially, being on the college campus at the university here, having to, with, the regulations are just, as rightly, you have the mask on right now. So, of course, social distancing. I mean, again, it all factors in, especially, setting your role, Michael.
Absolutely. And as I mentioned off air, I'll tell it now. Quinnipiac has done a very good job of making sure they kept the numbers down from COVID-19. In fact, the most recent test came out today. So far, we've had zero cases and zero results come back from the tests that they conducted here. So it shows that this university is doing the right thing. In fact, we have an app now that everybody has to download where they do daily check-ins to make sure that there's no cases of symptoms. And if you are coming down with a symptom, they advise you quarantine for a couple of weeks, not come to campus. And if you're coming from one of the hot spots that the governor here in Connecticut has instituted as a hotspot, if you're coming from those locations and coming here, they also advise you don't do so. So the university has really stepped up and done a great job with making sure they kept these numbers under control. And we're on campus now, so that means they've opened it up in the sense that people are allowed on campus. We still, like you mentioned, have the social distance rules in effect. We still have to mask up, and we're doing just that, keeping our distance, and everybody seems to be very cooperative. So far, so good to start this semester. Let's hope that keep it going.
Yeah, as you said, it's for you here at Quinnipiac. It's coming full circle for you, Michael, because I believe back in 2008, you also taught at the campus, and as you noted earlier, also studied at Quinnipiac. So for you, that must be very rewarding, Michael.
Oh yeah, it is. I mean, like I mentioned, I love coming on this campus, man. This is such a gorgeous campus. They have really built this campus up from when I was here back in 2005 when I first came to Quinnipiac as a graduate student, graduated in '08, and they've done a remarkable job with the way this campus is designed. It looks nothing like I remember when I was here. So that just goes to show you that the nature of education and how you make this community to where everybody can come and embrace it. And I gotta tell you, I'll never graduate from the college life, man. I'll just never. They say that once you graduate, you'll never graduate because once you become part of the college atmosphere, it stays with you. And I really believe that if you involve yourself and you love this lifestyle of being a teacher, especially, and giving back to your community, and it doesn't necessarily have to be here at Quinnipiac. I mean, I've also graduated from Howard, so I've gone back to campus and been a part of what they have going on down there in D.C. It's just a thrill of being on the campus, especially in the fall. It's still nice out here. We still have a little bit of a summer season going until we start seeing the temperatures drop. But for the most part, it's like when you first start, it's like an adrenaline rush when you step on this campus. Like, yes, I'm coming back here. This is the atmosphere I like to be a part of. And especially if you enjoy the job of giving back to these young professionals that are going to be walking the stage in 3 to 4 years, and they're going to look back and remember those that were a part of this. And I'm glad to say that being an alumnus here, I was part of their development in becoming a future Bobcat.
Great. You talked about Howard University, down there in Washington, D.C. I wanted to, ask you about your time there, studying sports administration and marketing, I believe, and also, during my research that you also wrote for a site called Hoopville. I just wanted to ask you about your time there at Howard University.
If I may stop you, here's one of my students right now who is in my class. We're on a live Zoom chat. This is my guy, Sunil. He's one of the, he's a sports reporter in Jersey. He's interviewing me for a show right now, but I wanted to show Sunil. I love sports. Yeah, he loves sports too. He's in my class, actually. I'm teaching this semester. So he happened to see me. So I told him to come by and just say hi to you guys real quick.
Hi, how are you?
Yeah, there is one of my good students in my class that I'm teaching. He's one of my standouts. He's also a sports guy, like you just said. And I think he's going to be taking part in rugby on campus. Is that correct? Yeah. He's going to get involved with the rugby club on this campus, and maybe no, you will. He's going to be very active around here. He's in his early stages. Well, he's gonna be active. Well, you'll be a part of this, I'm sure. Listen, come your senior year, I'm sure you're going to be very active in more than just rugby around here. Oh yeah. Well, so this is Sunil. Sunil, this is Drew. This is one of my guys in my class. So he just happened to stop by. And
keep up the great job.
We're just chatting. Yeah, see, we got and we were just joking about playing basketball. I gotta get my jumper back to form. It's not that great. I think they're a fan of my sneaker game too, because they were looking at my Grand Hill. So I think they know they have a cool professor that also has a sneaker game. So so they know they're not getting some guy on campus that's like somebody that's in there like an old guy. No, somebody that's young and still has a little bit of style, if you will, in terms of his appearance. So, all right, so I'll see. No problem, man. Thanks again for your participation earlier, and I'll put the assignments on the on Blackboard later. What's the request? Am I able to leave class 5 minutes early? Yes, and that's why I try to do that, because I know you guys got a distance to walk from the library. to the other side. So I can work on that. I'll post it on Blackboard as well. Yeah, that's fine. You got it. Thanks, Ruth. Yep. So there you have it, Sunil. So I was telling you about the college lifestyle. This is why I'm a part. This is why I love this lifestyle, man. It's great. Guy just happened to see me walking over. He just walked over and just jumped in. And this is what I try and teach my kids here on this campus: is that be open, be approachable. Don't be shy.
Yes,
I mean,
I was just about to say that, Michael, that you have to be approachable. You know, and that's the thing. Just open up those doors
so now
and
you got
be able
now
to
you
pay
got
it
my
forward.
now you got one of my students on this now. So now not only is it your first time, now you got to see
I
what
know.
some of my students have to talk about this campus. And so there's a proof of the pudding.
Tell me about Howard University and your time there.
Yes, it was a great time there, man. I enjoyed my actually. Well, here's how it started, Sunil. Actually, I got my college start at Bowie State University in '99.
Okay.
I transferred to Howard in the spring of 2001, and I finished up at Howard. But my time at Howard was probably some of the best years I've had down in DC. You know why I speak highly of DC, because I love the city so much. I miss it. I didn't want to leave when I graduated from Howard. I wanted to stay, but that was not obviously the case. There was other plans in the works. But Howard was great. Nothing like a campus atmosphere, especially when you're around a culture that identifies with you. And nothing like homecoming every year, too. I mean, Howard's homecoming, they talk about, is one of the best homecomings in the country in terms of Black colleges and universities as they're concerned. And I actually got back to homecoming last fall. My first time back at a Howard's homecoming in 15 years. So I'm trying to do better and making sure I'm a part of the Howard culture come the fall. But unfortunately, this year, obviously with COVID, those plans have been put on hold. But there's nothing like the Howard experience, and I was really blessed to be a part of that. And you know, there's a lot of history about Howard and the alumni that have graduated from there. You're talking about one of them right now, who's actually the VP candidate for the Democratic Party, and Kamala Harris. So we're out here, full force.
I wanted to ask you about your time as a radio broadcaster at WQUN. I think that was one of your longest stints. You were there, 13, 14 years. Served as a news anchor on the Brian Smith show daily. And then the fact also you were a studio host and radio producer for the station's coverage of Quinnipiac University men's and women's basketball, and I believe men's ice hockey. Can you just talk about that? And also that you served as a correspondent, I think, for the presidential inauguration in Washington, D.C., which I'm sure I said one of your biggest accomplishments there also, Michael.
That's actually one of my highlights of my career, Sunil, was being a part of that in 2009, yes. And I think I was the only local media person from Connecticut that went down to D.C. to cover that, which made it even more special. Yeah, there was nothing like being a part of history in that year when Barack Hussein Obama was elected president, and to be down there and to be on Capitol Hill and to be right there on the lawn and on the yard, on the mall, the day he was sworn in. One of the more amazing experiences I will never, ever forget, that I will cherish, because the entire country had seen a change that was long in the making, and it finally happened. Now, the reason why I was able to get down there is because being aggressive as a journalist, you got to be persistent in getting stuff done. So as it was getting closer towards election day, the numbers were starting to show that Obama was going to take over and was going to eventually win. So I was constantly making contacts with people down in D.C. at events that I went to. He went to all 11 inaugural balls in D.C. There was 11 balls across the city. He went to all 11 of them. I was actually a part of the Eastern Ball, which was held at Union Station downtown in D.C. Union Station is one of the main transit hubs for domestic travel in the city. Amtrak and a whole bunch of other places down there. So I was able to get a pass to go cover that. And I got to tell you, nothing like being a part of that. However, this is what it's like being part of politics and covering prominent folks, is that you can't just go anywhere you want to without being checked like a fine-tooth comb. Because even if you went to the bathroom, Secret Service was going to follow you no matter where you went. You got to remember, this is the president of the United States that's being sworn in, that's coming to an event now with a whole bunch of people. And you don't know who's in there, who he's got to worry about or think about that's in there. I'm harmless, but they don't know that. So that was one of my more enriching experiences of being a part of that. And I remember my nerves were running all over the place the weekend I went down there. It was just like, I couldn't believe this was actually happening. And then eventually covering the story, it was like, yes, this is one of my highlights. And being a part of WQUN for 12 years actually was a great experience too. In fact, it allowed me to get up close with the industry that I'm in now. It allowed me to learn about the ins and outs of the business. I got to do a lot of stories. I covered a lot of events around here. I did cover Quinnipiac sports when I was here. Notable events where the men's ice hockey team went to 2 national championship games. Unfortunately, they lost both. The women's basketball program went to the Sweet 16 a few years ago. I was there to cover that. And they had another couple of NCAA tournament runs. They played UConn 2 years ago in the second round that I was a part of. So the programs here at Quinnipiac have been great. Men's basketball is starting to come around now. They've had some ups and downs over the years, but they're finally starting to turn that corner a little bit. And it was a fun time. It was unfortunate, though, that unfortunately the leadership here at Quinnipiac felt the station was not really doing much of a service, much to the dismay of the community here in the Hamden, New Haven area. So unfortunately, the station was turned off last spring. And that ended a 12-year run for me. The station was on for 21 years. So clearly it was a big loss for this community. I still walk around here and people still talk about what happened and how they're not happy. I mean, I know the vibe around here is that they wish it was still on. I wish it was still on too, because when I worked with Brian Smith, probably one of the nicest guys you ever worked with, the guy, when we first worked together starting in 2017, we were paired up. I didn't know what to expect, but he was great. We used to joke to say that we were like the Miami Vice of Hamden. He was Sonny Crockett, I was Ricardo Tubbs, and I love Miami Vice, as you know, one of my favorite all-time shows. So you can think about how we. I still watch it too. I'm still listening to Jan Hammer coming down the highway with my top down on my convertible, man. It's like he was fun to work with, though. Brian and I never had a quarrel as the 2 years we worked together. It was amazing how we were able to click, and we got along so well. I mean, he was a celebrity down here already because he had worked in the New Haven market for many, many years. He was on another station here. He worked there for 19 years, and I think his station was actually named the Station of the Year back in the early 90s. So he was a celebrity already in the market. It was just that he was coming back on the air. I was a sidekick. I was just a news anchor helping him out. So once we started to fill each other out and we got a vibe going, that's when we really clicked. We really clicked. And the community embraced it. The station embraced it. The university embraced it because we were all over the place around this campus more than ever. We got to go to events as well. I actually recently caught up with Brian a few weeks ago for lunch down here. So we had some fun times, and we still stay in touch, and I'm glad that we didn't just disappear after the station went off the air. We maintain our connections, and we're going to still do so. And it was a fun time.
Where you talked about earlier, I think your first job out of college was with ESPN Radio. Is that correct, Michael?
That is correct, yes.
So, if you could just talk about that, working, said for established, said company, and just about the responsibilities and just, the rigors, just, of being in that environment, fresh out of college.
It was, here's the thing, Sunil, the campus, the ESPN facility now is huge. I was just there last November for a visit. Kelsey Nicole Nelson, she was up here for a visit too. So I actually brought it to the ESPN site, and she got a tour of the campus, and it looks nothing like it once did when I was there. So it has dramatically changed over the years since I was there in 2003 until 2009. But it was an adrenaline rush as well, being a part of an entity like ESPN, because anybody who's a sports junkie and wants to be in sports media automatically thinks ESPN. And at the time, ESPN was the network to be at. Everybody wanted to be there. If you're a sports fan, that's where you want to go, because that's where they got sports. You eat, breathe, and sleep it. And to be a part of that for 6 years, it was great. I learned, like I said, a lot about the behind-the-scenes work. Got to meet with some of the Sports Center celebrities. I got to meet the late Stuart Scott when he was there. I worked with Dan Patrick. I worked with Mike Greenberg and Mike Golick. I worked with Colin Cowherd when he was there. I worked with Stephen A. Smith when he was there. Well, he's still there. I also worked with a guy named Freddie Coleman. You might have heard that name. Yeah. I actually produced the show when I was there, and I still maintain connections with him. He's been there for a long time. So I got to meet all the big names that you see on TV or hear on the radio, and it was great to be a part of that fabric for 6 years. Yeah. Everybody goes through their ups and downs in this business, and I certainly went through them when I was there. Everybody's going to have their stories about what it was like working there. Some different than others, but I can just say that I did my best when I was there for 6 years, and I'm glad that I learned a lot about the industry, and it helped me as a development to be this journalist that I am now, because it was part of that. it was an intricate part of me being this radio broadcaster that you now know me as.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, writing, reporting, and then of course the technical skills. You were a technical director and, a producer there. Can you just, quickly talk about that? I said being able to attain those skills as well, Michael.
Well, yeah. Well, here's the thing, though, and that was what was key about working there. I had to learn everything. It wasn't just about editing or doing audio. You got to learn everything, right? It's a business that's changed over the years now, Sunil. It's so much that you have to do. Companies that are hiring are not just looking for editors or writers or broadcasters or stand-up people. You have to learn everything about this industry if you want to get a job, because it's changed to where they're cutting back on staff because they feel like if you can diversify your background more, there's not a need to hire one person for one particular job or one person for another particular job. If you know everything about what you're going to get yourself into, the more the better. So being a part of that community, being a part of ESPN and working at WQN allowed me to bridge those two entities and learning how to be on here and how to do technical work at the same time and learn how to write. And I think they were both intricate.
And what I think is also impressive is that, looking at your background, that also you work on the print side, that you were a staff writer at the Middletown Press in Middletown, Connecticut, covering general news. Can you talk about that as well as area business and also with the school district there? Again, just being able to add that to, your, list, I said, of accomplishments, and then, of course, with your background. Can you just talk about that, Michael?
Yeah, I was in print for a long time, actually. In fact, I got my start writing for newspapers in high school before I became a broadcaster. So the Middletown Press, and we'll go a little ways back, when I was at Howard, I was actually freelancing as a writer for the Washington Times newspaper, covering the Howard football team. And when I was doing an internship at WTOP Radio down there in DC, I was also writing for their website, covering Howard's basketball team. So I learned a lot by being a part of those two entities down here, and it continued into my later studies in this business, being at ESPN. And then you mentioned the Middletown Press. Yes, I began learning more about the non-sports side of the industry in terms of being more of a beat reporter, covering business stories, covering community stories. I did cover some sports stories when I was there too, but I was more of a guy that was just not doing just sports. I was doing everything. And I think one thing that's interesting then when I say that is that this pandemic has treated us to what it's like to be something that's out of your comfort zone. In other words, if you're a sports reporter, you see that sports is slowly starting to come back now. But there was a time when there was no sports and you had to find other ways to get to work your craft. That means having to step out and doing sports. You gotta cover stories related to politics and entertainment, general stories, cover community stories. So I think that was one thing I also picked up while working at the Middletown Press and WQN. I learned to do other things besides covering sports because I came into the business as a sports reporter. I wanted to be a sports journalist. But with this whole pandemic, it has shown me that I'm glad I learned those skills well ahead of time before now. Because I don't know if I would be able to handle the rigors of being a news reporter or a news anchor now if I didn't have the skill sets that I had learned over the years before this year came. And now look what's happened.
Yeah.
So those have been very, very key that I've learned something other than sports. And it helps your background too, especially when you're going out in the industry trying to find work. If you can do something other than sports, recruiters love that. Be as much as you can to them. Be the jack of all trades almost, because that's what they look for now.
Yeah, no, I agree. And also, you served as a color commentator for the Hartford Hawks women's basketball team. So that must have been interesting as well.
That was a fun job too. I really enjoyed that experience. That came about when someone had left the position in 2014. There was a color analyst by the name of Amy Lawrence. She does work now for CBS Sports Radio, I believe. She was the play-by-play voice for the team, but she had left because she had gotten another opportunity with the network, and that opened the door for me. I didn't have any color commentary experience. I did some work in college, but it wasn't on that level like being a regular commentator doing work like this as I did for Hartford. And what was funny is that the coach at the time was Jen Rosati. She's a legend here in Connecticut. You might have heard that name, Jennifer Rosati. Yes. She was the original part of the UConn's dynasty, what started in 1995 when they won their first national championship here. Jen Rosati was part of that 95 team. So she's well known and well respected, and she's a legend here. She is the person who met with me for the job and somebody else, and she offered me a job because I started talking basketball IQ to her, and she was impressed by what I gave her. Next minute I know, I got the job. And I was amazed by the work that I was able to do. The guy who I worked with was also fun. It was fun. We got to travel with the team. The job took me to places I've never been to. We went to Mexico that year, actually, for a tournament. Went to Mexico. But the program was so good at the time because Hartford was also another mid-major that was really making their mark in the women's ranks. I mean, their program won several conference tournament championships with the America East, and Jem Rosati was the head coach. So they were making their case of being a perennial mid-major power in the country. So that's why they were getting that kind of exposure, covering all these teams. And we played against Penn State. We went to play. We played Princeton. We went to a game in New York at the Rose Hill Gym, the campus of at Fordham, which is known as the Prairie. I got to call a basketball game in the #1 market in the country. Not too many people get to say that in their careers. I covered a college basketball game on the radio in New York City. And then we went to go to play in a tournament in Mexico. So that job was so exciting. In fact, we almost made the NCAA tournament that year because they were in the middle of a slump in February. And we went down to the tournament was held, the conference tournament was held up in Binghamton on the campus of Binghamton University because they had a neutral site for the first 2 rounds. And they had been in a major slump. In fact, that's how I met Kelsey too, because the conference also, they have a school down in Baltimore, UMBC. So we went to go, that's where I first met Kelsey as well. And that's how we've had that established. But anyway, the conference tournament in Binghamton is where they turned the corner and they knocked off the #4 seed. Then the next day they knocked off the #1 seed, and they were 1 win away for what would have been an improbable run to the NCAAs. But they lost to Albany that year and they got blown out. But the fact what I say is that was such a rich experience that in my first year, I nearly came this close to covering an NCAA tournament game as a commentator. Not too many folks in this business get those opportunities in their first year alone, mind you, to do all that.
That's true.
So that was a blessing that I had that job, and it taught me a lot about being on the road with the teams. We got to bond with the players, got to bond with the coaches. We stayed in nice places. We stayed in nice hotels. We did road trips. We did fun things with the team. It was great. I look back on that job and I wish I would have kept the job, but changes came after that season alone. So I looked at it and I said, you know what? Just something on another crossed on my list. So I got to do that.
That's terrific. I wanted to pivot to a couple other topics. And again, I talked about paying it forward. You're the vice president of broadcast at the Southern New England Association of Black Journalists. 2014, in charge of social media pages regarding announcements, local, national, NABJ, National Association of Black Journalist events. You serve not only, I said as a mentor, I said to journalists. It's outstanding, Michael. Okay, can you just talk about that, organization, also with NABJ too?
Yeah, I've been a member of NABJ for 16 years, and I've been the vice president of broadcast with the SNEABJ. I'm all this time I'm still trying to say those acronyms. SNEABJ for 6 years, and it's been a rewarding experience being a part of the organization because what we're doing locally here is we're raising money for scholarships to give these students that need the opportunities to study because college, as you know, is very expensive these days. So we're trying to reach out to those that want to be in the professions that we're both in. And by raising funds, by doing special events around the regions we serve. We are a 3-state chapter. We cover Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island. They were formed in Rhode Island, but now we cover 2 other states now. So in those 3 states, we hold events, we hold workshops, we hold functions. We had an event here twice here on the campus of Quinnipiac, and we've also raised money through events doing stuff here. And we're giving it back to the students because we want them to be a part of the fabric of being a journalist, and that's what we feel is a way of giving back. If they're willing to be journalists and studying towards that profession, if they come and take part in our events and they show us why they are willing to be a part of this community and this industry, then we'll reward them with money that will go towards their studies. So it's been great. We do it a lot. We've also planned trips around the NABJ because we've had prominent figures come to our events. We've also given scholarships towards the NABJ conventions, which are held annually, as you know.
Yeah.
And we also want to make sure that they're getting the most out of us. We're trying to be their resource for those that don't feel like they have a resource outside of our organization. In other words, we try to be the door they can just come to no matter what the case is. We also want to make sure that they have what they need and let them know that they're not going at this alone. There is people out here like us that support them, and we'll be there to back them no matter what.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you also, which is a great networking tool, especially for journalists. You're also a journalist of the National Press Club, approved as a journalist member November 2019. And then
you're doing your research today, brother. I like that.
Exactly. 4-time recipient of the Connecticut AP Broadcasters Association Award and 2-time recipient Connecticut Society of Professional Journalists Award. Can you talk about personally what those accolades mean to you, Michael?
It just speaks to the level of the work that I do for a living and why I'm proud to be doing this work, man. It just shows that you're great. It shows that you are among the best that do this profession. And even though, as I mentioned earlier, that people tend to scrutinize our line of work these days because people just hear things that they just don't want to disbelieve that it is true, it still makes me get up and just do my job anyway, because people do want to turn to media for information. And being that source and these accolades proves that you have a skill that people embrace and that they turn to you for that very reason, because they know you're going to give them the reliable information, be a source of information, give them what they crave, and be upfront and 100% accurate with it. The accolades are great. I cherish them. I never ever not look past them. It just speaks to the fact that you are among the elite in this industry. And very few can say, I mean, people get in this business and they work maybe 20, 30 years and may not even get a chance to even accept an award of that nature. To win 4 of them, 1 was great. But then to win 3 more plus 2 on top of that,
yeah,
it's great. I'm happy that but again, as I mentioned, I still feel like after all these years, I still feel like there's a lot more to accomplish. Like I'm still trying to make my mark even after all this time, to be honest with you. I'm not there yet. It's growing. I'm pleased with it. The accolades speak volumes. I'm excited about it. I'm glad that I can represent the community, especially a Black man in this profession that can actually show that he knows his stuff and does the best work possible and gets the reward for that. That makes me feel like there's a bigger purpose for me to be in this position. I have to be a beacon of hope for those that want to be in this position. You know what I'm saying? I got to continue to hold the ground. What to say? Hold down the fort for those that want to be here. So I take this job very, very seriously.
I had to ask you, Michael. You said I definitely done my research. You call yourself the backpage journalist. How did you come up with that slogan?
Because I'm always traveling. Look where I'm at
Yeah.
now. I'm on campus in the middle of September. And then before that, I was actually on a radio show yesterday morning. And then after that, I'm going from here. I got to go right back on the radio tomorrow morning for morning drive. And I'm working this weekend. That's why I call myself the backpack journalist, because I'm always traveling.
Yeah.
When do you not see my posters of when I'm going to be on the air or when I'm going to be back on campus or where I'm going next?
I know.
I'm always on the road. That's why I got to keep my car in good condition, because I'm always traveling.
How's the commute?
Right.
How's the commute from, because you live in Windsor, so I had to ask you about that.
Yeah, the thing about coming all the way from Windsor, man, it's a 40-minute ride down here to Hamden.
Yeah.
Because I'm coming from the northern part of Connecticut down to the southern part, which is right here around New Haven County. So I'm coming from all the way down there. It's a nice little ride. It's a great ride, especially on a day like today where it's picture perfect, nice and warm, not too hot, not too cool. It's perfect weather to be traveling and just to feel the breeze. It's a 40-minute ride for this job, coming to campus. Going to Springfield, where I work, is a mere 20-minute ride. It's a stone's throw from my house in Windsor going to Springfield, because I'm just across the state line in Massachusetts, and there's Springfield as soon as I cross into the state. That's by far my shortest commute is going to Springfield.
Very nice. I know you have a bunch of favorite quotes that, I was looking at from Adam Sandler to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. to President Barack Obama, Ludacris, Kerry Washington, Judge Judy Shendlin, Steve Jobs, and Will Smith. I had to ask you which quote, out of all those, people, maybe resonates with you the most, especially in what you're doing today? Again, as a professor at Quinnipiac, and then of course as a news anchor, also a radio news anchor, Michael.
I admire all those quotes that you saw because they all speak to what we do every day. It's not about just your profession. It doesn't matter if you're a news anchor, a professor, a father, a husband, whatever, a police officer, a doctor, a dentist, a teacher. It doesn't matter whatever your line of work is. Everybody has challenges. We're challenged every day when we get out in this world and do something related to what we're getting involved with. I know I am. I'm sure you've been challenged. Everybody's going to be challenged. That's why the quotes, I like them all. It keeps me motivated to continue to just push myself because I know I'm going to face adversity. In fact, I still consider myself the underdog. You know why I say that? Because I feel as I get to up here, I don't think I'm up here. People might think I'm up here, but personally, I don't think I've reached the pinnacle yet. I have a long ways to go. I'm still an underdog. I'm not a celebrity. I don't have a lot of fame and fortune. I'm not this big time news guy that you think is on top of the world and has everybody just falling at his feet. I'm just like you. I'm a human being out here just trying to make a living in America, doing my best, flawed individual, all walks of life, doing what I have to do to make my mark. And if I can inspire others through my work, then I know I'm doing my job. And that's all there is to it. Quotes are helping me just making sure that I keep myself grounded and also to help others that are going through the same situations or maybe going through something similar. This year alone has proven to be a big challenge for a lot of us in many ways. If it's not COVID-19, if it's not the social justice issues, if it's not the economy, there's so many things that we go through right now that we have to just continue to just keep these thoughts in our head and just keep motivating ourselves to say, you know what, it might be horrible right now, but it's going to get better. And the quotes are just to keep us all understanding of that. And again, I'm not trying to preach the book here. I'm not trying to make long speeches, but I'm just saying this. If you motivate yourself enough and you know you're going to do, and if you have that feeling and if you believe that you can do it, just do it. Like the Nike commercial, just do it.
Yeah.
Don't put limitations on yourself. Just go do it. And you know why? Because I had a good discussion the other day with my father about this. He always tells me, live and live to be happy. Just do it. You only live once. Life is too short, man. Go do it. Because no, really, it's the truth. That's not being funny. I'm being for real here.
Yeah.
Because
no, I know.
Look what this year alone has proven that.
Yeah.
You gotta be happy with what you're doing in life, man.
You have to live life to its fullest. I mean,
yeah, man, because
tomorrow's not a given, So yeah.
I wonder myself sometimes the way this year's been going along, if I'm gonna make it to even 40 next year.
Yeah.
People are like, well, I don't even know if I'm gonna get to 40 yet. I'm like, well, if I get there, because I don't know that. I would love to make it to 40. I would like to make it to 50. I like to make it to 60. But right now, I'm at 39. I'm trying to get to 30. I'm trying to get to 40 and get there safely and get there healthy and get there still doing what I got to do and still staying on top of my game. Bottom line.
That's true. Well said. Yeah. I mean, especially after, Kobe, it just like, it shook me to my core. I mean, it just,
Kobe, Chadwick Boseman. It's just
Chadwick
been a long
Boseman, yes.
list of people.
Yeah, there are. I mean, you can go on, but
Kobe
it just started with Kobe
and
then
hurt.
Yeah.
I mean, Kobe was a rough start to the average. We still can't believe about Kobe, but then Chadwick Boseman really, was a kick to the groin area. That really hurt.
No, it did. It did.
But what was the thing with Chadwick though? Yeah. He kept doing his thing even when he was, despite how sick he was. Yeah. He was committed.
And undergoing all those surgeries. No one, I mean, keeping that such, so private, I mean.
Yeah.
Just remarkable.
That's how he didn't want to burden, and I understand how he felt. He didn't want to burden people with his personal problems because he wanted to make sure he made everyone else happy by his work. That's a testament to that man's character. I'm sure a lot of us feel that way when it comes to our person. We don't want to burden you. We just want to make sure you be happy with what you're doing or what you want to be happy with. That's all. Give him back.
I just have a couple more. I can't thank you enough, Michael, for your time. Today, speaking with me, it's just been a true honor and privilege. I had to ask you about your family. I believe, we talked about that. Born in Jersey City, is that correct?
Oh, that's correct, sir.
If you can just talk about, your parents, if you have any siblings, and just again,
I'm the only child.
Oh
I'm
wow,
the only
right
child,
here.
buddy. Oh, don't start. Don't start. I'm the
Something we
only
have in
child,
common,
buddy.
right?
Oh boy, don't start with that nonsense. I'm the only child. And no, I was born and raised in New Jersey, so I'm going to always have the Jersey connection no matter where I go in this world. I was born in Jersey City, spent most of my teen and young adulthood in Central Jersey, Sayreville, Parlin for my middle school years, and then the rest of my teen years were spent in Old Bridge where my parents live right now. So we moved to Old Bridge in the fall of 1996, and we've been there. Well, they've been there ever since. I grew up there, of course, and I left for college after I graduated from high school, but they still live there. And it's been a while since I've seen my parents. I'm trying to get back down there at some point and get away from this whole COVID quarantine nonsense to get down there. I'm only 3-4 hours away, but I haven't seen them since March. So
Wow,
fortunately we got
that's
all this
tough.
technology where we can interact on Zoom and FaceTime and all that, but
Yeah.
nothing beats the real thing in person and up close and in person.
Now you, I just looking at your back with the high schools. You went to two different high schools. Is that correct, Michael? I was just wondering about that.
Oh no, I went to one high school.
Well, I thought, or was it Cardinal McCarrick or it was
Well, it was the same school, but they changed names over the years. In fact, it was called St. Mary Regional High School. The problem was the school. You still there? Yeah. So it was called St. Mary Regional High School when I was there in 1995 and when I graduated. Then it underwent a name change to Cardinal McCarrick. But about 5-6 years ago, the school closed down because they had a financial issue. They were going through financial times, rough times. So my high school that I graduated from felt like a piece of my childhood now is gone because the school is no longer there.
I know you had mentioned that you started writing in high school. Is that really where it took shape for you, Michael, as far as having interest, in sports or news writing? I'm just wondering about that.
Yes, it did. I started writing for my high school newspaper. I was the editor in chief the second year, and that's when I really got my taste of what it was like to be a sports reporter. And good experience. It was great practice. It
Yeah.
got me to understand what it was like to be a writer and a journalist,
Hmm.
and that carried right into high school. I mean, into
Yeah.
college rather. So
Yeah.
I look back on my days of being the writer for the school paper. I think I was doing more of the writing though because I maybe had a staff of 5 people. So I was doing editor work. I was also doing writer work. I was doing a little bit of everything at the time, but it was fun. I learned and it taught me how to be multifunctional.
Yeah.
So editor, writer, proofreader, you name it.
Yeah. That's great. My final question to you, Michael, and you probably answered this before, what your message is to younger journalists or someone who's trying to, break into the field. And, what would your advice be, especially, I mean, these times, again, are just living in a different time here, especially with this pandemic, but just, what your message would be to, younger people.
Stay focused, stay vigilant, stay cognizant, and be open-minded about what's going on in the world because unfortunately we're living in times where too many people are going about opinions where, and I'm even discussing this in my class that I'm teaching, too many of us are using the mindsets of others to be their influence to what goes on in the world, and that's not right. That's not the way to think. We're all entitled to have our different views about things, but what I say to them is be open-minded about what really is going on. Think, analyze, just take a step back, think about why this is happening, realize it. These are going to be the future leaders of the world. We need to be more open-minded about things that are important to us as humans and as not just as Black people or Caucasians or whatever the case may be. So I tell everybody to stay focused and also keep people around you that will support what you do. I don't think I've ever said that enough is that you gotta make sure you're around like-minded folks that want to see you win, that will push you, accelerate you, motivate you, constantly getting you. Too many of us are around people that don't want to see us get to the top of our careers or just don't care. So I say that to make the emphasis that be around those that want to see you in the same position as they're working towards. It's rough. I can count on one hand right now how many people I can call friends. I don't have that many. I'm not afraid to say that. But guess what, though? I know who I can weed out from those who are sincere and versus those that are what they call associates. Associates are those that just don't really, they're just there just to be there. They're not going to be like, hey, let's go out for a drink, or let's go out to go do something, let's go do something fun, or let's go hang out and do something. Those are called friends. Hey, I saw it happen the other day. We got to do better. Hey, what's going on with you? Oh, we got to fix that. Hey, don't do that. Oh, no, that's not the right way. Hey, let's sit down, let's talk. Those are the like-minded folks you need to be around that are going to help you through these trying times, especially because right now, more than ever, Sunil, people are really funding themselves down because we are in an unprecedented time that we had never envisioned. Quarantine life has really gotten us thinking about life. It's also made us appreciate life more too, because we've taken the little things for granted over the years. But now I think this experience is going to tell us how to do things differently. Hopefully, not saying that we're going to change the world in one fell swoop, but perhaps by what we've seen already is going to make us more cognizant of what we should be thinking about once we do get out of this pandemic and out of these turbulent times. So those are my messages to this younger generation. Stay focused, stay sharp, stay vigilant, open-minded, and continue to work hard. Be the change that you want to see in this world.
Yeah, you definitely have to have your priorities and, a game plan, set up. I mean, I think if you have that, especially, on a daily basis, I think, it definitely helps you out in the long run. Forgive me, I forgot to ask you about diversity, especially in the, in journalism. I'm sure it's definitely been a hot button topic. I had to ask you about that, and of course we talked about it, this year, of course, with the social injustice, and it's almost like a perfect storm that's come together. But can you talk about just that quickly, Michael?
Yes, and that is one of the things that we've tried to address here on our campus in Hamden is the diversity issue. I was at an event the other night here for our first year seminar that I'm also a part of with the freshman class. And I think I only saw maybe one other person that looked like me as part of the first year seminar group. And I think you can count almost on one hand. I could be wrong, but this is what I last checked and what I saw. On one hand, how many folks of faculty on this campus look like me or look like you.
Yeah.
That is what we're trying to fix around here. We have a new dean in our School of Communications who's been spearheading that process. He told me the other night that there's an opening for a broadcast journalism professor here. He told me personally he wants to recruit people from the NABJ to apply for that job because he understands the need for diversity on this campus. And it's not just Quinnipiac, it's on other campuses across the state that he wants, the landscape that he wants to see more diverse. We got to see more diversity. We could talk about this till we're blue in the face. Diversity in the media. Diversity in any other profession. We know media is a big issue right now with diversity, especially when there's not that many people that look like you and me doing this line of work.
Yeah.
And I could be wrong, but I think I am the only Black radio news anchor in the state of Connecticut. The entire state of Connecticut.
2020.
I am the only one. You would think that in 2020 we would see differently, but unfortunately, Sunil, that's why we are having these conversations because we are still tirelessly trying to put the work in to get them to change their mindset about why we need diversity. Yeah. It's a long, drawn-out process. We're going to be talking about this probably for another 10, 15 years, I hate to say. Yeah. But we got to be committed to wanting to make these changes. So if it starts with me and starts with you, then that's why we got to keep pressing on because eventually something will happen. The only hope is for the better. You just got to just keep grinding it out until something happens. And then hopefully you'll see that it will have influenced others to do the same.
Well said. Hey, again, I can't thank you enough, Michael. It's just, again, it's been a true honor and privilege. I'm wishing you continued success, I said with being a professor and also, I said as a radio and news anchor, and thank you again.
So, it was a pleasure. Thank you for having me on. I know you're doing great things down there in Jersey too, so please keep up the great work, keep up the grind. I've seen your stuff. Keep cranking them out, my man. And keep pushing.
Thank you so much.
Keep pushing that work so that we can start seeing more faces like you doing this stuff on TV too.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much, Michael.
You got it, buddy. Take care of yourself.
Take care. You too.